This is season 11, fully booked, the book review. We're reviewing the book Dope Black Boys to Rich Black Man today with myself, Mace.
Myself, French.
Myself, Andrew.
And yeah, let's go. Who's ready to give off to read off their review first or go through their review first?
Do you want to take the floor?
Yeah, why not? I mean, obviously, well, it doesn't matter anyway, but yeah, I'm happy to go first. I did my review not too long ago, so it's fresh off the presser. Anyway, I gave this book a 4 out of 5. A 4 out of 5 for its purpose, information provided, delivery, and impact. I didn't think it was a compelling book, and I say compelling by way of being keen to turn the following page. But when I did turn the following page or chapter, I was often surprised with the poignant level of information, to which I made a lot of notes, and they triggered obviously a lot of thoughts. I think his story in general was being heard before, which is why I may come across initially obviously critical, but I've given the book a 4 because of the detail, cognitive behavior, the Black experience, and how he used to tell, basically how he told his story, and obviously in other narratives. He used stats, which I think is really, really cool and obviously important, but also context obviously to back it up. He revisits history, which I think is also important in general, but also in our community as well. With some of the figures he spoke about in the book, I knew little to a lot of information about them, but the way he delivered the information is made me obviously want to know more made me want to know obviously a bit more about these figures, who are obviously important obviously to our community, but also the way history was shaped. I think in most cases, history repeats itself, and I think he did an excellent job in drawing contrast with many things, but also with today and yesteryear. I'll revisit the book because of the amount of quotables and notes I made from various chapters, but obviously just finishing off, here are a few. There's quite a few notes, if I'm honest, so this may take a minute or two. Society celebrates overpowering killing. Sorry, what's this? Society celebrates overpowering and killing in sports, business, religion, and politics, and is evident obviously in history today, obviously with conflict. Obviously, I know he gives the example of Israel and Palestine, and the world embodies empowerment. Some of the greatest men in the Bible were killers: Moses, Paul, and David. Today's conflicts, today's conflict in Israel and Palestine is no different from the conflict obviously between the Bloods and Crips, and the dispute in oil and otherwise, capitalism. They're no different from obviously hustling on the block, and obviously our desires are the same. Self-reflection is necessary to dig deep and ask why I'm prone to making these decisions. Understanding is key to accepting responsibility and improving decision-making in the future. Many black young males are labeled for a lack of self-control, but some of the negative conditions we're forced to live in under negative conditions we were forced to live under are totally unimaginable for the average person. Infestations, drugs, not knowing your parents, and death. The psychological turmoil from a broken home and other ills led to obviously conflict and internal and external problems. Because of our circumstances, in our experiences, or having to educate our children on the world, we have a high emotional IQ as opposed to other ethnic groups, obviously, to which obviously I think we've discussed before, maybe obviously in this season, or certainly certainly the mask of masculinity, I think we discussed that in. Gifted IQ. Despite not getting good grades in school, he had a high IQ, which is, again, obviously the most for most black kids. I've just mentioned that. Practice and master, the art of being proactive versus reactive, dictating your outcome. There's a few more. Life becomes amazing, obviously, when you discover what you're passionate about. Talent enables you to connect and move people in a special way, which I think, obviously, a lot of us are passionate about many things, but in particular football. You'll see, obviously, the way that kind of like drives people. Will Smith, I think there's a quote from Will Smith. The separation of talent and skill is one of the great misunderstood concepts of people. One of the great misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have a dream of what they want to do. I thought that was quite interesting. Shortcuts will be short-lived because of weak foundations. That on the back of those who also want to sell drugs, etc., etc. The audacity of hope obviously speaks about obviously Barack Obama, obviously in believing he'll become obviously the president of the United States. And obviously prior to him, obviously he was the 44th. Mandela's turning point was being able to forgive his jailers. Mandela became a mindful leader who became superior at managing his emotions. Mandela became committed to reprogramming his mind and perspective. Mandela made a conscious decision to outthink, outvision, outlove any forces of oppression stand in his way of freedom. So there's a bit more. At some point in life, even after achieving great success, you have to come to the realization, the realization that it's not all about you and obviously what you can get. Everything in life is done to help set up the best means of evolution for the next era to successfully come after you. There's a few more.
Fine. You love quotes. You love quotes, boy.
No, yeah, I love these quotes. I think this is a really important one. It is vitally important to prepare yourself to become the greatest father you can be for when that time comes. You have the opportunity to fulfill life's greatest purpose. You literally become a superhero. A real great father is better than any sports star or celebrity. Teaching them love, values, know-how, personality, and education. Education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change our world and world around us. Learning itself is so powerful. So powerful because it creates the building blocks for wherever it is we wish to desire for our lives. Where are we? If you don't love yourself, your neighbors are in trouble. Obviously, I mentioned that in our last recording.
Few times.
Said it's true, yeah. And the most important and valuable thing you can own is your mind. Your thoughts, ambitions, and ability to process events are all on your mental home court. No one can stop you from dreaming about what you want to be. Once you convince yourself that your thoughts and visions can become reality, no challenges in the world can stop you unless you let them. Never give away its power or thought to anybody. Always control your mind. I think there's a couple more. A few more. Man's man's greatest fascination. These are quite good. Man's greatest fascination has been with immorality. Man is still trying to figure out, how do I physically live forever? The greatest thing to live in the closest thing to living forever is having an impact in life that can, even after you're gone, you're remembered for a long time by others. Reading also makes you think in ways that allow you to expand limited perceived boundaries of the mind to being unlimited. It gives you the confidence to do all types of things because you've empowered yourself with the knowledge and know how to do it. Just finishing off, there's a few more, but Koofman states that studies show it takes 20 hours to become very knowledgeable about a new subject. In 20 hours, you can tackle the learning curve of knowing nothing about a skill to being reasonably good at it and knowing more than most people know about that subject. And my last one, having political power without economic is like a driver's license with no car to drive. Economic wealth is the core anchor to develop infrastructure. That is my book review. I could have went over a few more quotes, but that might have been a bit much.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head and mashed it through, boy. But so you're giving it a 4 out of 5, yeah. So the only improvement you say is that even though you got a lot of information from the book, what you're saying is that it didn't enthrall you to keep turning the page. Is that the only thing you'd say?
When I was reading the book, I was pleasantly surprised at the level of information that was in the book. But I wasn't like with other books that I've maybe read in recent time. I've been very keen to turn the next page and find out what's next. I didn't actually get that vibe from the book, but I can't front on the book in any way, shape, or form. The level of information in it and its purpose and direction was very good.
Yeah, man, great stuff.
You can do if you want.
Yeah,
go for it.
All right, cool. Right, so Dope Black Boy to Rich Black Man. So this book paints the story of Christopher Freeman, a young black, what some might say hustler, or I prefer the term entrepreneur, who learns from an early age the art and skill set required to turn $1 into $2. Unfortunately for Christopher, the means by which he tried to accomplish this in his early years was via the wrong side of the law. And after being placed under investigation for drug offenses, Christopher found himself behind bars whilst at the peak of his money-making drug empire. What Christopher realized whilst being behind bars was that he had the art of hustling down to a T. And if he could do it in the streets, he could do it in the corporate world with the right attitude, commitment, focus, drive, and mindset. After coming out of prison, a reformed character, Christopher set his sights on the female hair industry and wanted to become successful dealing hair products, mainly weave to black women. After all, who better than us, than our own, to know what the black woman wants with her hair? After finding the best product for the best price and offering the best customer service, Christopher was able to become a successful businessman with his hair range, beautiful hair feed, becoming renowned within the cosmetic industry. That was a brief synopsis, yeah? So for me, this book was a really enjoyable read. I love the whole change in mindset Christopher shows and his stay positive attitude throughout. What I really loved was how powerful he'd regularly make me feel by reiterating throughout how great the black man is, that we are destined for greatness, we come from great heritage, and we must continue to pursue our goals and dreams. What was even more amazing about the book is the fact Christopher places so much emphasis on how important it is to look back through history at some of the great leaders that have gone before us and the adversity that they had gone through to make any type of headway in our day. This is powerful. It paints a picture that they have lit the torch and died for this cause so that we can carry it and shine bright. The book is split into two halves for me. The first half is Christopher going through his early life, his mindset, him going to prison, him changing his mindset, him grinding to get to the pinnacle he's at now. The second half telling us what we can do to help ourselves to achieve great things, what and who have been before us, and what this means to our race, culture, and existence. A really superb book for me. Poker, I'll probably give it, if we're doing out of 5, I'll probably give it a 5 or a 9 out of 10, so 4.5. I'd recommend it to any young man who wants to change his life around. Young being, when I look at young, I look at what age was I still impressionable. And I'd say teenage years. Like, you're not, depends on where you come from, where you've grown up, but you're typically not too far gone. So any young man who wants to change his life around, but especially young men who are not yet knee deep in the streets. I think if you're knee deep in the streets, like, I think French, you made a really good point, either during the course of us going through the book or when we had Swift George on, where you said, like, at one point you weren't hearing it. Anyone, I think I asked the question once to who could have sat you down or what could have made you change your mind. You said at one point you weren't hearing that. And I think that's the same. If you're knee deep in the streets, reading this book is still going to be, I don't think it's going to change you. That's why you have to get the people who are kind of borderline. The other people I recommend this book to are those who are in prison serving a sentence, who, like Christopher, are ready for a change of mindset, but don't have the kind of inspiration, don't know where to go, just need something to trigger a switch. And maybe those who are in prison serving a certain length of bird, those who have maybe been out on the road or the curbside for a certain amount of time, hasn't paid off for them, and they're just like, you know what, forget this, but what do I do next? I think Christopher's a shining example of that. For me, as I said, the book would definitely get a 5 or a 9 out of 10. What I really liked about the book was my kind of, before opening the book, what I had in mind, Don't Black Boy to Rich Black Man, it was going to be all about this. I don't know why I pictured 50 Cent in my head. And I had this vision that it was going to about 95% of the book was going to be about this guy that was really out here knee deep in the streets, and he'd go through each and every example of the streets. And then like, there's just like, he kind of, something happens where he switches his mindset. What I liked about the book was the fact that, yeah, you had your first, maybe half of the book where he said a little bit. He didn't go knee deep into the gritty and granular detail. He said a little bit about the book, about what he was like in the streets. He didn't go into too much detail. I like the fact that, I'll break it into thirds. That first third is that. The second third is almost the prison bit, his mindset changing, why it changed, the whole scenario where I think they was doing a role play in prison, and it finally clicked about like how the kid, like that nitty that he just served up, what about the kids who's getting fed in the house, all that clicking into gear, into motion. And then that kind of last third, what I loved was that he's giving you the spiel first on, like, you know, this is why I was, this is why I changed my mindset, this is what I become myself. What I loved and what I wasn't expecting from the book was the fact he then went into this last third of the book where he speaks about some real historical figures, some real figureheads, leaders, and what they've done in their time and what they've done to pave the way. And he as you said, P, he hasn't made it, because I was worried for a second. I was like, what's all this history? But then when I've read it through, I was like, do you know what? It kind of, do you know what? It makes the book whole. And what I liked about it, it's gone deeper than what I expected. He's gone into depth. He's gone into detail about these people that have gone before us in a different era, what they've done in terms of trying to get things equal for us, in terms of standing up for their rights, in terms of being powerful and leaders. I love how he's molded that all. And he just touches on certain figureheads that's gone before us, not in huge detail, but enough detail that it leaves you wanting a little bit of a taste for more, Peter. Research them, but then to also look inside yourself and think, right, I must have some greatness too. And that's what I love, the fact that he reiterates, I think it's at the end of every chapter, might be wrong, he reiterates how great the black man is. And it felt like he was speaking to me and us three, should I say, because he directly says, young black man, or young or black man, or black king. Like, he always keeps saying that. You are great, you are superb. It's all about like that mindset and just someone telling you, stay positive, you're great, you can do it, you're destined for greatness. You're not here to be robbing and killing. You're here for a purpose, trust me, just believe in yourself. Loved all that about the book. And 100%, I remember my cousin, one of my girl cousins, her son is 15. And about 6 months ago, she actually hit me up and she was like, I really want him to, I want to get him a book to read. And I was thinking, what can I get him to read? I recommend a couple. This is going to get to that list. You know why? Because it's not a difficult read. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of words you can't understand. It's an easy read. It's a nice read. It's got some history there as well. Because I remember when I done history at school, I didn't learn about any of these figures that he speaks about. I learned about one of them, which was Martin Luther, and that was it. That's all that got touched upon. And it's the same thing in every school. I have a dream speech. That's it. So I love that. I love that part. I love the fact he touches on the early part of his life, the street stuff, because at 14, 15, 16, when you're kind of, everything's new, everything's exciting, he touched on that part of his life and where it led to. And the fact that, yeah, it was exciting to him. When he sold his first rock, he doubled it up. His cousin told him, hold that. He went and shot it, brought it back, made a change and said, right, is that easy to make money? But then he shows you what it leads to. Yeah, I had the fast cars and the women, all got squashed back down to zero when I went inside. Women left me, money dried up. Had to start again. Love all that. So for me, if we're doing it out of 5 out of 5, if out of 10, 9.5, maybe even borderline of 10, I really love the book.
Good review, man.
Cheers, man.
Didn't freestyle that one this time.
No, half freestyle. half notes, half freestyle.
Nah, that's dope still. All right, cool, I'll jump in. So I've been a dope black boy. I'm in the process of becoming a financially rich black man. And I say financially because I'm rich in many other different ways. So naturally, the title of the book appealed to me. The authors set the tone from the jump by asking thought-provoking rhetorical questions, which automatically gets you thinking about the state of society and how young black males are displayed in it. But rather than sit on the questions and allow them to stew in your consciousness, a statement, rally call, or as I liken to it, a public service announcement is made which immediately filled me with a hope, pride, and a snippet of rocket fuel for an agenda which presides further into the book. The agendas include having a positive realization, knowledge of self, and collective unity. This is all done under the guise of the title, Hustler's Ambition. If you know anything about a hustler's ambition, you know it never dies. It gets transferred to another hustle, thus alluding to the title, Dope Black Boy to Rich Black Man, a transfer of hustle from boy to man. The contents page and chapter titles are repetitive, which can be confusing if you wanted to jump in at a certain aspects of the book. However, I would say the book is written in a format similar to the title, so as to identify the process and transition of one end of the spectrum to the other. This book wouldn't usually be found in the self-development genre, yet it could settle in there as the message pervade is of self-improvement. Based solely on the constant message and reiteration of the line, young black male, you are great, is empowering and evidently intentional for a specific demographic to read these words and feel empowered to take steps of self-improvement and fulfillment. Even if the reader is not of the said demographic, it's easy to detect the author's intent, which isn't to exclude and marginalize, but rather isolate and boost morale of a section of society which has been continuously deterred from positive self-determination. The book is written from a point of view of a high school dropout turned illegal drug hustler, a two-time felon that has had a 180-degree mindset change, who transitions into a multi-millionaire businessman. I personally don't believe there's a question of whether you agree or disagree with the author's perspective, as a person's life experience are just that, an experience. But if push comes to shove, I agree wholeheartedly with their viewpoints. Although, for clarity and transparency of my review, there was amount of disparity of the angle chosen when speaking of historical events. For example, on page 226, they, the authors, speak of Africa and our ancestors as they instead of we, as speaking from a separate standpoint. So they've written it, but the way I read it was, and I say it revised, we never felt we were one united people, where they wrote, they felt they were never one united people. Additionally, the statement of every person you've ever known or seen was created by sex, which is on page 192, is technically false, but that's as far as I'm gonna go in regards to nitpicking. One of my favorite quotes early on in the book is, master the art of bringing proactive versus reactive. This means dictating what you want the outcome of the situation to be before an uncontrollable outcome is dictated upon you. That's a brilliant nugget of wisdom for the younger or elder, a universal truth. The thesis is easily flows throughout the book with a constant stop sign pointing to the intended reader. It's written in an informal style which suits the intended audience with youthful and cultural references to convey the message and apply relevant analogies. All concepts are clearly defined, but at times feel slightly rushed or even unnecessary to the points of being conveyed, yet fills in with the overall message of the book, as they somewhat tie in to eventual points indirectly. For example, the mention of melanin and the sun being the most vital source of energy to every living thing, which then relates to ancient Rome and ancient Greece, to then coincide with European exploration, which coils back to modern Africa, slavery and its implications. All relevant points being made, but deviates from the main thread of the book, yet summarizes by linking them all together. The conclusion chapter summarizes with great points of commitment and signs of an analogy which refers to individualism and teamwork being the catapult for the necessary change required we want to see in ourselves and our global community. The bibliography is extensive and full of additional information to research if you choose to do so. Overall, I think this is a great book to read or give as a gift for the younger generation, especially those on the cusp of entering the possibility of looking at the fork in the road and deciding which way to go. So I've given this book a 4.5 out of 5. And that's my book review.
Yeah. Well, I really like the book. I'll be honest. Like at one point I was worried the angle and avenue was going down, but then I read further. I was like, nah, I really like the book. Really like the book. And
I agree with Pete in regards to like the fact that it wasn't your classic page turner. So I wasn't like excited to pick up the book again every time I put it back down. But at the same time, every time I did pick it up, I was happy that I did I was definitely happy that I did pick it up, and I was learning something each time, even though some of it may be things that I already was privy to, but then there was some parts that I was unaware of. So overall, it was a good book, but I wouldn't say that I'd pick it up to read again. I'd more gift it to someone and say, have this and have a read through it. But I wouldn't necessarily say I personally need to read through it again, being that it's a similar journey, and it's a journey that we see quite often in the news or the films or in music. And it's literally, a lot of us are dope black boys that go into rich black men. So it's not a unique story per se, but a story that should be told either way. So yeah, I agree with that, what you're saying there, Pete.
Yeah, I felt like, I can't remember what I said specifically, not that your question anyway should perform. I felt there was like, as we were reading the book, or certainly as I was reading the book, and obviously I knew we're due to obviously have this conversation, not the book review, but the previous conversations. I went through it and I was obviously surprised as to the level of information he provided as to obviously previous, let's call them scholars, okay? And it made me think to myself, actually, I need to go back and read that again You know what I mean? And that, you know, sometimes you can read something once, and although you understand or you've taken in information, that's a point of history or a part of history that I feel needs to be a part of you. And I felt with that in particular, with maybe one or two other bits and bobs, I would like to have like a glaze over again. Or as I mentioned before, actually, I feel there's parts of the book I really need to do some research on, such as we'll go in obviously the Du Bois and the forgot his name, the Booker T. Washington, and just things like that.
Mm. I think essentially we're all saying same things, but
Yeah.
just in like a different way, because as I said, in regards to the bibliography, there's extensive research that you can go and look at, like as you mentioned there, like to go and look for more information on Booker T. Washington or W.E.B. Du Bois. Again, I was aware of them. I've got a couple of their books, but there was some things I wasn't aware of. So this is why I found the book interesting. But yeah. No, I think everyone's in agreement. 4 out of 5, 4.5, more or less the same. Everyone's kind of got the same book review, essentially.
Yeah, and I don't know if Mason, you're going to jump in, but I'm quite glad. Obviously, I think obviously we pretty much said the same thing, but I felt we said even different things or maybe additional things. And I think there's things that Mason said and yourself, French, that you said that I thought, oh, you know what, I didn't quite say that, but I would have added that to my book review. So I felt it was quite well-rounded, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, facts. Go on, Mace.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, that's the wrap up then.
Yeah.
All right, cool. It's quick, easy, in and out today, boy.
Yeah, guys, fully booked at gmail.com, and obviously on the Instas and socials, full letter E booked. Check us out, man. That's the book review for Dope Black Boy to Rich Black Man. Look out for the next season and our next coming guests.